Faith-Forward Media, this is Healthcare Musings. I'm Dr. Hashem Hasabala. Welcome to Healthcare Musings, everybody. I'm so happy to have you with me. I'm honored and delighted to have Dr. Richard Abrams on the show just to set up the conversation. So if you remember, I had Dr. Adam Seafiu at the University of Chicago on. He's an educator. I'm an educator somewhat. I mean, I have a faculty appointment at Rush University Medical Center. I have faculty appointments at Drexel and other places. I teach residents at the main hospital I'm working at Rush, and also across the country through my telemedicine work. And I'll say it out loud. I mean, I say it out front that they don't make them like they used to, man. I am now the curmudgeon that went uphill both ways and through 10 feet of snow, and which was actually true. But Dr. Abrams reached out to me and said he listened to the conversation, and he told me it's not their fault. And I was very interested to hear his perspective. Dr. Abrams used to be the dean of GME. He used to be the program director of the internal medicine residency where I did my training. He's one of my teachers. He is a full professor of medicine at Rush University Medical Center, has a wealth of knowledge and experience, and so I wanted to have his perspective. Welcome, Dr. Abrams. I'm so happy to have you.
Thank you, Hashem. It is so good to be here. So good. Actually, it's so good to see you.
Likewise.
The other thing I will start off in saying, and that is that I have heard Adam speak before. Adam is somebody I respect. I read. He has a Substack. I have no idea if you've read that.
He does. Oh, I'm subscribed.
Substack, which I read and I love.
Yeah, I actually contributed a piece when I had chest pain during my shift and went to the cath lab and everything. So, I'm a contributing writer to Stem Cell Medicine. It's a great Substack, absolutely.
So, do you want me to start, or do you?
Yeah, go ahead, man. They don't make them like they used to, Dr. Abrams. They don't. Tell me how I'm wrong.
So, first of all, I guess maybe I'll start with this question to you, and that is should we really go back to the days when you and I trained? Is that really something that we thought was good, or was something that we want? And I say this a lot, and that is, it's so easy to look backwards and think of good things, but in my view, nostalgia is about forgetting the bad things, and so I can start by talking about, or I'm happy to talk about, why I'm not sure that the model we trained on. I can give you 20 reasons why the model we trained under was not ideal.
Yeah, go ahead. I mean, I remember coming home from Rush, post call, and I don't remember how I got home. I remember that. I remember post call in the ICU where now I live. My senior at about 1 o'clock after noon conference, I'm post call. There's tons of work left, and he yawns and says, "I'm gonna go home. I'll see you later."
If you remember correctly about that time, that is because as seniors we took call every other night, so it was a Q2 rotation. And if you didn't go home by, so you got there at 7 a.m. or 6:30 a.m., on Monday, and it was noon or 1 o'clock on Tuesday when you went home, knowing that you'd have to be back on Wednesday to do the same thing. Mm-hmm. So I don't know. And you're the ICU doc. Is that really the person you want taking care of you, who's been there every other night for a month?
Good point, man. Good point. The problem I have is the lack of resilience, right? I'm not saying it was good, and I am saying that when the storm came of the pandemic, I had an emotional breakdown. A lot of my colleagues had emotional issues, and I weathered that storm because I'm used to that the difficulty of the training, and my issue is the field, the work hasn't changed. So critically ill patients are, if anything, more critically ill now than they were before. They're younger, they're more critically ill, if anything, but at least they're as critically ill. It doesn't change. But your training has, right? Your the way you're equipped to deal with adversity has, and so you just are not ready. I oversee a program in the East Coast, and it got really busy, and all the trainees are like, "What's going on?" And they bring up the word unsafe, right? Like it gets like that. In private practice, before I came back to the rush system, I remember 2006. It was midnight. I'm still rounding on Saturday. I still have to come back on Sunday, and I'm on call. It's just me for two hospitals. But I didn't crumble because of that, because of my training, because of doing things with teachers like you. So that's my. I'm not saying we should, to berate the people, everything like that. And at the same time, I never took a mental health day. Like I remember our mutual friend Cliff Kavinsky. I was an intern in the CCU. It's overwhelming. It was my first month as a doctor. It's a lot of work. And he brought a patient down to get diuresed. I forgot to order Lasix. I did. And so he comes to, he does this to me, and he tells me the whole thing about, I brought her down here to get diuresed, and you're treating her for gout, and that's not the number support. And I could have kept her on the floor, and he shooed me away. And I didn't go home and take a mental health day. I said, okay, my system is not working. I got to figure out a new system, and I did. And that never happened again. Now, you have an ICU nurse that may yell at a trainee, and that trainee goes home for a mental health day. Come on. That's my issue.
So, a couple of thoughts. So first of all, thought number one is that here's a real reality, and that is that medicine today is very, very different than medicine as what it was when I came in. So, we're talking 40 some years ago, and it's not. What's happened to medicine is it's been sliced and diced into smaller and smaller pieces, right? And so you'll tell me as a resident and as an attending or even as an early attending, you did a lot of things that across an entire spectrum of a patient's experience, right? There was no such thing. Listen, when I started, there were no hospitalists, didn't exist.
Right.
Critical care didn't exist, for God's sakes.
That's true.
And it's and our ER at that time, and many academic ERs, were run by medicine people, not by ER doctors. And so now let's jump ahead, and all of these things have been divided and in some ways subdivided, right? You're a pulmonary critical care person. Are you an interventional pulmonologist?
No, I'm not. No.
So it's the slicing and dicing of medicine that in many ways has, I think, at least had some effect on this. So, and listen, again, we can go to hospitalism. And is hospitalism not just shift work?
It is. It is. I think the thing I love about critical care is that it's shift work, that I can work half the month and that's full time.
And now let's go to the student piece of it. So the students see this, and their perception of medicine is that it really isn't a continuum. It's really cut up into little pieces. And so, and when they become doctors, they're going to be doing little pieces. The one thing I'm going to say about medical students, and you work with medical students a lot, and I work with medical students a lot. Number one is I actually think medical students are way smarter than they were than when I was a student.
Oh, wow.
The other thing I'm going to say about medical students is that in general, medical students will do anything that we tell them to. Mm-hmm. Okay? And so this message is a message that we've created. It's not, they didn't create the message and bring it back to us. We created the message and moved it forward. And the message isn't all bad. Okay. And I understand, listen, everything's a pendulum. It's things swing from one side to the other. And the answer is almost always in the middle. Mm-hmm. And we react to the situations we're in, and I think that in many ways that's what medical students do. They're reacting to the experience that they get. They're reacting to us also, because I'll say this, and again, this is what I remember. It's maybe, like I say, I may not remember the other piece. I see attendings all the time complaining about how they have to stay late, or how they have to take an extra shift, or how they have to do that, and the students hear that stuff. It's like having a little kid. You think you hide things from your children? They know they hear everything we say.
Yeah.
And so I actually think that in many ways, I go back and say, we're 90% responsible for this.
That's a very interesting point. That's very valid. Okay, let me go back. The same thing. Like, my top 5 rules of the ICU is don't panic. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's in my book, right? So because, like I said, it's the work, but the work hasn't changed. It reminds me of this article I read in NBC about nuclear medicine submarine for the Navy, and they were talking about how the trainees are having difficult times. Some are suicidal, and the people in the naval, the trainers are saying, it's a nuclear submarine. We can't dumb down the training, because if you don't do it the right way, you can cause a nuclear catastrophe. And I think medicine is somewhat similar, especially critical care. It's somewhat similar. Like, I have a patient that could die right this second. I don't have time for your feelings. You know what I mean? Like, if you're trying to care for a patient, and I tell the trainees this, medical students and residents, listen, you know what? I don't have time for your feelings. So when there's an issue, if you're not going to act, or you're going to freeze in terror, right, because you're panicking, then I'm just going to push you aside. And literally, I did that to a resident gently. I said, okay, go ahead and run the code. And he froze. So I'm like, all right, excuse me. And I just went and I ran the code. We don't have time to deal with the feelings, right? And it's a high tense situation. And so sometimes people's emotions get all over the place. And then we're the bad guys. So like, the work hasn't changed. Like, it's just as hard now as it was when I was there. Now the training, I'm not saying that how difficult it was. Like I said, I'm not saying it was great all the time. And it still prepared me to have a work ethic that I see a lot of people, and I hire a lot of people out of training, and for, I don't know, it just seems to me that there's the same sort of, you just keep piling on. It doesn't work. But then again, the job hasn't changed, right? And if you have a boss who's a doctor who still practices and knows what it's doing, it's one thing. Many of us are going to have bean counter bosses, business people that don't understand what we've been through, and all they look at are the numbers, and ask, what's wrong with you? Talk to me about that.
So we can talk a little bit about medical education.
Yeah, please.
In my perception, and my perception comes from my experience in it. I will be the first person to say that although I consider myself an educator, I don't know if I'm a formal teacher. I don't understand some of the guts of that. My wife is an elementary school teacher. She knows way more teaching than I do. And I actually, a lot of the stuff I've learned from her.
Wow, that's cool.
But one of the other things that's happened is I really believe that the training model has changed, and the training model has changed to reflect sort of the realities of what medicine is, and in many ways to reflect what the realities of academic medicine have become. Okay,
Hmm.
and you already told me you have a daughter
A med student. Yep.
who's a medical student now, and I imagine that her experience as a preclinical student is way different than your experience as a preclinical student. Because when I was a preclinical student, the only thing that I really had to do was go to class and do my work and pass my tests. That is absolutely not the case with it's not the case to get into medical school now, and it's not the case to be in medical school now. And that and those expectations actually extend through residency also. So it's and you tell me if her experience is different. It's oh you have to do quote research while you're a student or while you're a resident. You have to do these other sort of meaningful activities that take people away from the clinical piece of it, right?
Hmm.
And
That's
so
true. That's true.
again, and as a clinical, when you do go into your clinical years, there's so many things that bring you away from the bedside. Again, that sort of that tail into some of these other quote important things that doctors need to do. I mean, people. It's funny. I run. One of the things I do is I still sort of oversee the student election to Alpha Omega Alpha.
Oh, wow. That's cool.
And so I ask students to write about the domains in which they've excelled, and I'll give them a list of things, and and I think the most common thing that students who applied wrote about was their experiences as their accomplishments in leadership. Okay,
Hmm.
and and listen, it's great, and I hope all these people go on to become great leaders. But is that really? Tell me how important that is for during your second and third years of medical school. I mean, you have to learn medicine in order to, in order to be a leader in medicine. I think you have to learn medicine first, but that may not be true anymore, right?
No, that's
So
very true.
so there's these things. All these experiences become important, and then you go to residency, and it's exactly the same thing, right? So there's a tremendous amount of pressure on residents to, again, if you want to go into GI or cardiology, you have to publish 10 papers or something like that.
That's true. I mean,
There's a
because everyone wants to become a gastroenterologist or a cardiologist, right?
and there's a finite amount of time in the day. So when you and I were staying overnight to see people, these guys are going to do their research projects, or they're going to go to try and write something that they can get that they can put on their CV. And so there's we've created all these things that pull people away from that, right?
No,
And
that's a very good
so
point.
they're away. And let's acknowledge there's pressure on them to do it. You're not going to get your fellowship in pulmonary critical care now unless you've done those things, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
The other piece of it, and it is what I've talked about before, and that is that the way residency is organized, every 2 weeks you're doing something different. And so it's really, in my mind, residencies become a buffet. So you
Hmm.
take a little of this and you take a little of that and you take a little of that. And now you're telling me you want to foster, long term, whatever, continuity, this, that, but you've made the residency, there's no continuity in the residency at all. Right? They've done away with continuity clinic. It's now a X plus Y. It's now something like that. So you've done away with all these things that that instill the kind of things that you're talking about.
That seems to be a tragedy, Dr. Abrams, because, like I said, I think our field is still a gilded occupation. Like residency is apprenticeship.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? It's an apprenticeship, just like blacksmith being a blacksmith or being a mason or a brick mason, not the other mason. You know what I mean? Like it's still a guild. It's still you still need, and the learning, and Dr. Sifu feels that too. The learning is in the work, like the way, and that's why I love critical care. I think critical care is the only field in my mind, and I'm biased obviously, or I'm a doctor. I need to know critical care. I need to know cardiology. I need to know pulmonary. I love the lungs, so that's why I'm a pulmonologist also. I need to know a little bit about the GI and the renal system and the pulmonary system and the cardiovascular system and the skin and the hematology, everything, and how it ties together, and how if I make one organ system happy, I'm upsetting the other organ system. How to deal with that, and then the medicine, the pharmacology. And then I see critical illness evolve over time. I mean, that's why I love critical care. That's why I'm plugging it. It's really where I feel, and I'm a surgeon a little bit. I do procedures, and that's being a doctor. That's why I wanted to become a doctor. I wanted to care for the whole person. That the way we've, like you're saying, sliced up the education. I mean, even if you're slicing up, I guess that's what fellowship is for. But aren't we again making just, well, I'm just, this patient's going to be with me a couple of days and that's it. There's just the learning is still in the work and seeing that patient at the bedside, right?
No, listen, I agree with you. And I tell students all the time. I've got students come with me, and I tell them right up front, and that is, I'd rather have you see an extra patient than than write a note or to do this, because as you say, the learning is in the work. There's absolutely no substitute for seeing patients, right? There's no substitute for seeing patients, maybe except this, and that is if you have to pass a test,
Right.
right? And so you see again, particularly I think with students, and again they're reacting to their environment. They on a call day they'll go home and they'll do whatever, sketchy or Anki or things like that,
Hmm.
because we've made it all about the test. And again, they're reacting to their environment. I got to do this to get to the next step. I got to do this to get to the next step. And so everything is 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 just that. And the reality is, and I'm with you. You can't be a good doctor unless you see a lot of patients. And your
Yeah.
opportunity to do that starts when you're in medical school, and then it lasts the entire rest of your career. I mean, if you think that, if I'm sure the day you walked out of your fellowship and you sat doing what you were doing, there wasn't at least some fear in you.
Oh, it's a huge amount of fear. I remember, and my orientation was, here's the hospital, here are the patients. I'll see you on Monday. Literally, that's what it was. He gave me sign out, right? I am covering two hospitals on my own, first time, July 15th, 2005. Still remember, right? And here's the sign out. Hospitals are over there. I'll see you on Monday. That's it. And I didn't call him. And I dealt with it. And I was terrified. First time on my own. I have no attending crutch. I have no one to say, well, I know behind me is Dr. Balk or Dr. Silver, God rest his soul, or Dr. Casey. All those guys, all those wonderful, Dr. Abrams, all those wonderful teachers that I had, where I know that I have the security of knowing, hey, I can bounce things. At the end of the day, they're behind me. It's me. I'm the one. I'm the Dr. Casey now. I'm the Dr. Balk, although I'm not Dr. Balk. So yeah, there's a ton of fear, 100%, and dealing with that fear and being given the work ethic and the resiliency to do it just makes you better. And like you said, every patient is a teacher.
I got
Every patient is a teacher.
I've got a question for you, and that is because I kind of have the suspicion that fellowship has become residency, because fellowships where you really, like I said, residency now is this. It's almost like medical school. You're always rotating to something new every couple of weeks. And
Is it really every couple weeks now? It's not four. It's not 4 week rotations.
we do a 2 week. So every 2 weeks you rotate.
Wow, really?
And so I, like I say, I think fellowship has become residency because that's where the sort of installation that you're going to be doing the same thing sort of over and over again. And I suspect that many young physicians develop, young internal medicine physicians develop their professional identity during fellowship. And you could speak to that more than I can because I don't work with fellows in that way. I mean, I see fellows working, but I also, and I've talked to a lot of our residents who become fellows, and the step up from residency to fellowship now seems to be a much bigger step than I think it was. In some ways, I always thought that, again, back when I sort of did this, I actually thought that going to fellowship was actually almost a step down. It was easier.
It was easier. It was easier. I could focus.
Now I think fellowship, that's right. You didn't have to worry about, if you're going to pulmonary critical care, you didn't have to worry about the electrolytes, or critical care you did, but
Yeah, we do. Yeah.
you didn't have to worry about everything else. But now it's a big step up.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I mean, I was so happy to be in fellowship. Finally, I can do what I love to do all the time, right? And I have my pulmonary office where I'm seeing pulmonary patients all the time. I'm in the ICU most of the time, right? All the time. I loved it. And then I did a year of sleep. All my electives were in sleep. So then I did sleep too, only, right? So I could focus. I loved that, right? And I told, when I was in residency, I told the chiefs, please put me in the ICU as much as you want, because I already decided coming in, I want to do pulmonary critical care. So put me in the ICU as many months as possible. And in fact, I did the last year of my intern year and the first month of my senior year in the unit, just so I had 8 weeks straight, right? So that's such a good point. I didn't realize that it's every 2 weeks. So how do you develop continuity? Do you not have any don't you have to train like office? We had a continuity clinic where I was seeing, that's one of the reasons I told Dr. Sifu that. That's one of the reasons that solidified my decision to become a specialist, is by the way, I'm walking out of the 1 foot out of the room, like, hey, I'll see you later, mister. He's like, doctor, by the way, I can't see. What? I can't see for the last 2 weeks. And my blood pressure has been 180. All these things, I'm like, I can't do this. I want to be a pulmonologist. I want to be an intensivist, right? Isn't that bad,
So,
Dr. Abrams?
these systems have evolved over the years. So, I mean, we're probably, nationally, people started doing some of these systems probably over a decade ago.
Yeah.
And what the reason it's almost, in my mind, it's almost why I think we started our hospitalist system. And that is, we viewed it as an educational efficiency, right? It was education. We'll get to the patient care efficiency, and I which is one of the things I love to talk about. But it was educationally efficient for the residents to only have one attending, right? So we came from a time where a resident might have multiple attendings that they had to deal with. And so once you go to a system where there's one attending, it's really kind of like one-stop shopping for residents, right? So it's
Right.
educational efficiency. I think that X plus Y systems are an educational efficiency, right? So one of the worst things about clinic that people would say is that, oh my God, I'm on the floor, I have to leave the floor and I have to go to this clinic, and maybe the patients won't show up and I'll be stuck there for 4 hours. And so
That was my pain point about the clinic, big time. Like, and I remember it was November 2002. It was a nightmare unit month. It was just super sick people. It was crazy. And I got pulled I had to go to the clinic, and I had to leave clinic to go put a chest tube in. I had no choice. There was no one else to do it but me. And my attending at the time got really mad that I left the office. And I understand I understand why. The patient's in the office, that's your focus. What am I supposed to do? I had to leave. And that was the end of that experiment where I can see people more independently, really like an apprenticeship where they come to see me and then I just talk to the attending. That went away because he was angry, upset that I had to leave to put a chest tube in. It wasn't I couldn't help it, right? So that was a pain point. Even in fellowship, that was a pain point.
Right. So, but I say, so it's educationally efficient to separate all these things out. It's educationally efficient from a knowledge standpoint. Okay. Mm-hmm. So, boy, I'm on 2 weeks of cardiology. I've got these 2 weeks to learn cardiology. I've got 2 weeks of the floor. I've got 2 weeks of this, and so it's efficient educationally. You're just immersed in that. The problem with it is I think is twofold. Number one is you do lose continuity, right? So if you're never in one place more than 2 weeks, you don't know, you know nothing. Then you can write your little list down and say, I'll go back to Epic and look through it, but you won't. So it's efficient educationally. The other thing is that nobody asked the patients what they wanted, right?
That's a good point.
So all this stuff was designed to make it easier for whether it's students or residents. Listen, our hospitalists switch every week now, most of them, mm-hmm. And I get it. It allows you to do whatever you have to do in the rest of your life. But I'll argue it probably isn't all that great for patient care, and I'm 100% sure that patients don't like it.
That's very interesting. You said you like to talk about patient care efficiency. Talk to me about that.
Well, it is. It's sort of what I just talked about, and that is it goes back to, like I say, patients like to see the same doctor, right? And listen, I'm a primary care person, so this is the world I live in. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, actually, I'm a dinosaur. So I work in 3 places. So I'm work in the outpatient setting. I'm also one of the last attendings who is allowed, because I'm allowed to do inpatient. So I do 8 weeks of inpatient a year. So and I do it for 2 weeks because 1 week, it takes me 3 days to figure out what I'm doing.
No, that's true.
I do that. And actually in the last couple of years, I actually have half a day a week where I do home visits. So I see patients across this continuum, and the advantage. The only reason I could do it, for God's sakes, was I'm not a hospitalist, but I know what happens when a patient goes home. And I think I think many hospitalists don't know. I get all sorts of crazy stuff. People go home, every medicine's changed. They don't know how to get any of the medicines. There's all this stuff, and it's not that they're doing a bad job. It's that, like I say, we've trained people in these little silos, and so they don't know what happens. On the outpatient side, I know what happens when a patient. I know what happens when a patient's in the hospital, and then you do the home stuff, and then you're really in the Wild West, because then you really know how patients perceive the whole process. So it's efficient care, right? Depending on what your efficiency metrics are, it's efficient care. But is it? I don't know. Is it good? You tell me. Is it good care?
It sounds like it doesn't sound like it, and a lot of the issues that with readmissions, because I'm as head of quality at my hospital, so we deal with readmissions and we deal with hospital-acquired infections and all these things. So readmissions, if your medicines are all jacked. My mother-in-law just had surgery, and she keeps telling me, "What's this? What's this? What's this? What's this?" And then she has 3 prescriptions for Pepsid and 2 prescriptions for a Yeah, you know what? You make a good point. We've fragmented the system, and then and we're trying to be as good as possible in the fragmented system, and
Right.
that's
We meet the metrics within the silo that we meet the metrics in the silos that we work in, and but there's 50 pieces, right? And the
that's such a good point.
pieces don't necessarily fit together.
So then, and
We're
this
not
may
going backwards, though. I'm going to
no,
tell
we're,
you.
but
No way we're going backwards.
if it's not patient centered, like so then what? So then if it's not good for the patient, like is just the way it is, just the way it is, because the patient is this. I mean, that's why I love being pulmonary critical care because I remember what it was like to be in the office. I don't panic when somebody has a SAT of 70 because I can't tell you how many people walk into my office with oxygen saturations in the 70s and totally feel fine until I give them oxygen. They're like, oh my God, I can't believe I feel this much better. That perspective is really important as a physician, and it's lost. And you're right. It's not maybe not their fault. They just gotta. I I have hospitalists in our, we have hospitalists in our practice, and it's a tough job.
Yeah.
It's a tough job. It's a really tough job. You have so many demands, and again, I'm head of quality, so I'm looking at length of stay, at mortality ratio. We're looking at HAIs. We're looking at readmissions, and the hospitalists have to get all their stuff in and discharged, and admissions are coming. It is not an easy job whatsoever, and it's just like, okay, we've identified the issues, and it's more educationally efficient, but maybe not best for the patient. Is this just the way it is? Is this just how it's just going to be?
It's the pendulum again. This is where we this is sort of where we stand. I think in 2025, and
Yeah,
to go back to the students. Like I say, the students are reacting to this, right? So
that's a good point.
they're they don't know any better. They're walking into this milieu and they're seeing this, and and it's not as surprising as many people think that this is the what they would do. I mean, they've got, like I say, half the time they're going to a conference somewhere. They're meeting with, I don't know, they're going through cases with during the middle of the afternoon when the residents are running around doing things and you're having sign out rounds and things like that. So they miss out on that experience because they're doing something, quote, educational instead during that time. And so
Yeah,
it is what it is. The mental health piece, I we should talk about a little, at least for a minute,
yeah, please.
because
I never
because
took mental health days. Like even my 19-year-old in high school, she didn't one day like she may not have studied as well for a test, so she just took a mental health day, which is okay, fine. Everyone could do that. Or now they have retests. You can retake tests. We don't have that. I can't retake the boards. Okay, I have a bad day. I don't do well. I fail the boards. That's it. It's the way it is. In the Olympics, if you're third place and you have to be second to qualify, if you're off by zero point zero 0.01 seconds, well, it's the way it is. But now they have retakes, and you can do the mental health days, and I don't know. I mean, listen, seeing patient die after death after death after death after death, day in and day in and day in, was not easy, right? And I still came back. I had to come back. Someone has to be there. The patient needs a doctor, right? Please talk to me about that.
so I guess a number of things I say about this. So first of all, there's certain words I don't like. So I don't like wellness. I think well-being is a better term, right?
Yes,
And remember, there's domains of well-being, right? So there's for example, there's community well-being, right? Right.
right.
You want to live in a community that you want to live in a community that cares for each other. You want to we could talk about whether it's a family. So we live within groups that if there's well-being, if the environment's good, then people tend to do better. How's that? There's personal
Yeah,
well-being. Those are the things that that make me feel better. And, so for one person, it may be doing yoga. For another person, it may be, knitting. And, one of the problems with the sort of wellness industry, I'll call it, is that it imposes it imposes certain ideas on people that in order to be quote well, you have to do certain things. And in my mind, the personal well-being piece is you got to give people the space and the time to do things that again make them well or bring them joy or whatever it is. I think that our job is educators is really much more around the community well-being or the milieu that we practice in, because if you've got a really well-functioning ICU, right, and everybody supports each other and everybody looks out for each other, people are going to do way better in that, right?
That's true.
And not only that, because we get to all these metrics and things like that. I think that when you have situations like that, then actually patient safety improves, right? So a great ICU team makes for great care, and a dysfunctional ICU team, even if everybody's really smart and everybody knows they know every little thing, it makes for bad patient care, right? Because
100%.
people aren't going to speak and step up. And so I'm afraid that we mix those things up, right? And so I need to be off, and there are reasons that people need to be off. We should allow people to go to the doctor. We should allow all those things. And if you're working 70 hours a week, you should go to the dentist once. And if you have to be off for 3 hours to go to the dentist, you should go. Or if you're suffering in some way, you should do that. But it's sort of the imposition that, that this is going to make, that you need to take this day off to make you feel well. Because actually, it's funny, last week I was in the Dominican, I told you I was gone.
Yeah.
The Dominican Republic. We were working in this really fabulous community that was taking care of Haitian refugees. And the reality is the week before I had done 2 weeks of inpatient service, and I worked both weekends, finished the week out going to clinic, and then, on that first weekend I had to get up at 4 a.m. to go get on a plane and go down there. And I'll tell you, I felt so good going down there, and we worked all the time, but it was the doing that really sort of restored me, mentally, right? In some ways, it took me away from a lot of the day-to-day things that I have to do. And so I think that we can create experiences that are really, really positive for not just our learners, but for all of us, right? I mean, that's your job, right? Isn't this what your job outside of medicine is?
This is one of the things I do outside of medicine. I mean, I do clinical a lot. It's maybe the bulk of what I do, but I do this podcast. I write. I play golf with my son.
But the other thing you do is you oversee groups.
I oversee groups. Yes.
So if you now we get to the leadership thing I talked about before. A good leader in my mind creates those environments, right? So and I think so much of it is you've got to lead by example. And if I think of my great mentors, and you would know one, Dr. Levin Dr. Levin and Dr. Goodman were my great mentors. What made them great is they led by example, right? They would tell you to do things, but I don't think they'd ever tell you to do they would never tell you to do something that they wouldn't do themselves, right? Or they hadn't done themselves. Or if it was going to be hard, they'd explain to you why you had to do it and what the real reason you had to do it, instead of that's a rule or this is that. I mean, I remember so well one of my favorite Dr. Levin lectures was the "This is not a democracy" talk, where he told us when I was a young attending that we had to go work in one of the first LTACs as the hospitalist,
Yeah.
and 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 he went through, he explained all of it, he said why it was, he acknowledged that it might be hard, it might be this, it might be that, and at the end of it was like, okay, I guess we have to do it without anger, not with I can't believe these guys are doing to it. It's okay, it's been explained to me, I understand why I have to do it, and that's why we're going to do it. And and I think we need to do a better job of that with our students and with our residents and things like that. Because, like I say, I think that almost all of them will, in those situations, not only will, but want to step up to the plate for it.
Yeah, that's a very good point. I think this is why I wanted to have you on the show because your perspective. And now you made me think. I probably will want to have I hate to say this, but a younger educator, like, right? So someone to get their perspective as, okay, it's different. And they always even my daughter rolls my eyes, my med student, oh my God, okay. When I tell her how hard it was they just roll their eyes, yeah, okay, yeah. And just like we rolled our eyes at you guys and you said, you know what, we're like, okay, but I think it's really good. Okay. That's why I wanted you on the show. They're reacting to the environment that's been placed on them. I'll try to be nicer.
The other thing is, you know, so being program director was the best job I ever had. I
Hmm.
loved it, loved it, loved it. It's a job that comes with an expiration date, and so you can't do it. And there's some places that do it, but you can't be program director forever because there's always a part of you that's rooted in your experience, right? So there's always a
Hmm.
part of me that was a resident 40 years ago and sees residency through those eyes, and and you and you can't fully remove yourself from that. And so you need to have, like you say, you need to have younger people do it because number one, they have different eyes, and number two is that is that they will do things and they'll do things and come up with things that you could never see. My so my favorite quote is and I don't know if you've ever heard this quote. This is Isaac Newton was supposed to I think it's attributed to, and the quote is, "If I can see far, it's because I'm standing on the shoulders of the people who came before me."
Oh
Right,
wow, yeah, that's
right.
true. No, that's so true.
And so if you've done a good job, the people who come after you will be better than you, right? They should be. I mean, it's like you want your kids to be better than you, right?
Absolutely.
Every parent wants their kids to be better than them. And so when I talk about students and residents, my expectation is that they should be better than us, and we've got to create the right environment so that so that they can do that. And so that's why I keep going back and say this is on us, this is on us, this is on us, and 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 I don't want to not acknowledge some of these issues. And like I say, if you go back and read these Elizabeth Rosenthal, listen to the podcast, she talks about some of these things. Um, but but we're responsible for this. I mean, it's like people don't hire themselves, right? So you get somebody that's in some place and you say, God, this person's terrible. So somebody hired them. It's not they didn't come in there. The students come in here, and I think like I say, I think most of them will do whatever we ask them,
Hmm.
and it's just that we're asking them the wrong things. Like I said, we're asking them to do research. We're asking them to do all these other things, and in some ways, we're not asking them to spend enough time just seeing patients, talking to people, taking care of people, and watching how the system works. Um, so I'll stop there.
No, that's perfect. That's perfect. And I think you've that's why I wanted you here. You gave me great perspective. I think I would much rather have students that rotate with me, whether they're medical students or APP, PA students. We have them too. Um, not write notes. I agree with you. They should come to the bedside, see what we're doing, learn, take care. And the notes on me, I can.
That's right.
I'll take care of the notes. That's a very good point. That's what
That's right.
I'll do.
I'm being paid to write the notes. They're not being paid. They're paying to learn.
That's true. Very true. So I'm gonna start doing that. I'm gonna be nicer. I see what you're saying. That it's been done. The system, like it or not, has been changed fundamentally, and they're just trying to be as successful in the new system. I'll try to be. I'll do my best to be nicer. I don't think I could be a program director. God bless that you did that. You were one of my favorite teachers. I mean, all of the Dr. Levin, God rest his soul, Dr. Goodman, everybody were. I mean, I'm standing on your guys' shoulders. I really am, and I'm so grateful to have learned under you and trained there. And I just think there's no way I could be where I'm at without you guys. So thank you very much for all that you did for people like me in helping us carry the mantle and carry the torch forward.
No, so good to see you, and so good to talk to you. And we'll see. Maybe Adam will comment on this, but and I'd love, he came to talk to us a couple, maybe about 6 months ago, and just having a chance to sort of go back and forth with him was really a great thing.
Yeah, I like
Lots
him
of
a lot.
great people. I mean, that one of the other wonderful thing about this field in general is there's so many great people with so many great ideas, and it's a blessing and an honor to be able to do this. I mean,
100%.
that's the one thing. If there's anything we really should instill in our students, it's that piece, and that is that we are we're the luckiest. This is the best job in the. This is a great job, and people honor us by letting us take care of them, and they tell us things that that they haven't told other people, and so to realize that's what you get to do it's really sort of mind blowing to me.
100%. I couldn't agree more, and that's exactly what Adam said too, Dr. Sifu, and that's a perfect way to end the show. Dr. Richard Abrams, so appreciate you, so appreciate your time. It's great to see you, and thanks for your insight and your wisdom here. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Hashem.
Thank you for listening. Sign up at healthcaremusings.com to get every episode delivered directly to your email. And please don't forget to leave a 5-star review. Thank you so much.